Good morning, everyone. Isn't it an amazing day to celebrate these beautiful children that we had up here? Truly awesome, truly awesome. And I feel honored that I have the opportunity to talk for them and to encourage our parents and our church family to raise these children and raise them in the ways of the Lord. When Angela first came up to me and she told me that she wanted me to give this lesson, I honestly was pretty scared. I was like, Angela, you realize that I don't even have kids, right? Rachel and I don't even have a goldfish. Like, I am not qualified to give this talk. But I'm feeling better about it, and Rachel and I are looking forward to one day having our own kids. Seeing these children up here up front, their cute little smiles and faces, man, they just melt my heart. And I think I'm a little more ready than she is. She tells me that she's not ready for 2 kids in her life just yet. The second one being me, but... But luckily, God has blessed us with this group of kids that we've been able to adopt as our own. And I feel like they are my kids, and I've enjoyed the opportunity that I've gotten to know them and build relationships with them and love them and watch them grow. And it's truly been a gift, because that's what children are. Children are a gift from God. And Solomon says in Psalms chapter 127, verse 3, which Grayson read for us, it says, children are a gift from the Lord. They are a reward from Him. Parents, I'm sure it's not always going to feel that way. I'm sure there's going to be harder times. I'm sure new parents, there's probably been a lot of diapers, a lot of crying, not a whole lot of sleep. And so I know parenting's probably a challenge. It can be difficult, but just know that these kids are the greatest gift that God will ever give you. And so when we look in the Bible, we can see how Jesus values His children. In Mark chapter 10, starting in verse 13, it says, one day some parents brought their children to Jesus so He could touch and bless them. But the disciples scolded the parents for bothering Him. When Jesus saw what was happening, He was angry with the disciples. He said to them, let the children come to me. I tell you the truth, anyone who doesn't receive the kingdom of God like a child will never enter it. Then He took His children in His arms and placed His hands on their head and blessed them. How sad is that? These parents were trying to bring the children to Jesus. The disciples thought that Jesus didn't have time for them. The disciples thought that Jesus was too important to spend time with the children because they didn't see the value in the children. But Jesus did. We see that Jesus not only blesses them, but He says, unless you receive the kingdom of God like these children, you're not going to inherit it. So Jesus flipped the script. Jesus saw the value in these kids. And we as a church, we need to do the same thing. Sometimes we don't see the value in these children. But we need to do like Jesus, and we need to see that these children are probably some of the most important people in this church. Why? Because they're the future of this church. One day, these kids are going to be the ones up here. They're going to be the ones sharing their faith. They're going to be the ones out making disciples and leading. And so we got to invest in them. We got to see the value of these kids, because who knows what amazing things that God is going to do through them. God does. God says, I knew you before I formed you in your mother's womb. Before you were born, I set you apart and appointed you as my prophet to the nations. So God's got a plan for each and every one of these babies that were up here. He's going to do amazing things through them. He's got a purpose for them and a path laid out for them. And parents, your biggest responsibility in life is making sure they stay on this path. And like I said before, I'm not a parent. I don't know the secret to parenting or the secret formula. But if there's one thing that I've learned from being with your kids, is they are watching the example that you live. They are watching how you live your life and how you reflect Christ, and they're soaking that up. And so, has anybody heard the song Buckaroo by Rodney Atkins? Any fans of that song out here? No, not really? Okay. Well, I'm not going to perform it for you, but I thought we could walk through the song and kind of see how the lyrics work, because I think it really ties into how powerful your example as a dad and a mom are. And so it starts off, a father and a son had gone to McDonald's, and they go through the drive-thru and they get some food, and they're driving through town, and the kid's eating his food, and all of a sudden they come up on an intersection and the light turns straight to red. So the dad slams on his brakes, and the drink just goes all over the little kid. Just completely soaked with orange drink. And the dad turns around, and the kid says a word that no 4-year-old kid should say. And the dad turns around, and he's like, "Where did you learn how to talk like that?" And the kid says, "I've been watching you. Dad, ain't that cool? I'm your buckaroo. I want to be like you." And so the dad goes home that night, and he's like, "Oh, I'm not being a good example. What is my kid learning from me?" And we actually see in the song that he prays to God, and he says, "God, help me be a better example to my child." So the second verse gets better. We see him put his son to bed, and before the son goes to bed, he gets down on his knees and he prays to God. And the dad asks, "Son, where did you learn how to pray like that?" And the son says, "Dad, I've been watching you. Ain't that cool? I'm your buckaroo. I want to be like you." And so I tell you this song just to let you know, like, parents, your example is powerful. The way you live your life is powerful because these kids are watching you, and they're soaking it all up. And I've seen that in this group of teenagers that I have here because I got to know them, I got to build relationships with them, learn their personalities, learn what they're like. And let me tell you, it made so much more sense when I met the parents because they're just like you. For better or worse, they're just like you. And so it's so funny. They talk like you. They have the same humor as you do. They look like you. Kids are watching their parents. So parents, you've got to be like the guy in the song. It's got to be a daily reflection of thinking, what kind of example are you setting for your children? Are they learning how to pray from you? Or are they learning words that they shouldn't from you? You've got to be reflecting that. Are they seeing you in the Word daily? Are they hearing you pray? Are they watching you share your faith? Are they seeing you be humble and turning the cheek in tough situations? How are the kids seeing you live your life? Are they seeing you live your life for Christ? And I know if you do, it'll make all the difference in the world. I know it did for me. I was very fortunate to have the dad that I did. He was an excellent example of what it looks like to be a Christian man. When I was a kid, he'd take time before I went to bed to put me to bed and tell me Bible stories. And at the end of them, he'd quiz me. And I could tell that it was a big priority for him to make sure that I knew my Bible. Every night as I grew up, I'd walk down the hall and I'd look in his bedroom and he'd have the lamp on and he'd be reading his Bible in bed. Every night without fail. He had a little routine. He'd read one chapter out of a Western. He loved his Lewis Lamore books. And then he'd read 2 chapters from the Bible. So every night without fail, he was in the Word. I watched him give generously. If we were driving down the road and ever saw anybody that needed help, he'd always pull over and help them in any way that he could. I watched him share his faith, like truly evangelize, study with people, baptize people. And I got to see that, and that was super powerful. In fact, a couple of kids that graduated with me from my high school are still living in that hometown, and he's been studying with them. And I think that's so cool. But my dad was a powerful example for me. And I guarantee you that I wouldn't be up here talking to you guys if it wasn't for the example that he set. So parents, just know that the way you live your life is so important because your kids are watching you. And I know that's a steep order. That's a lot of pressure on you guys to live up to that because parents aren't perfect. We're all just human beings. We all sin. We all mess up. And so luckily when you're raising your kids, you don't have to do it on your own. Because here at the South Yukon Church of Christ, we're a family. We're a village. We should all be in this together when it comes to raising these little kids that were up here. Think what the future of our church would look like if every adult invested in 2, 3, 4 kids and poured into them. We got to take responsibility and putting time into these kids, loving them, help the parents raise them, and leading them towards Christ. What does that look like? How can we do that as a church? Get involved in their lives. Teach a Bible class. Help out with children's Bible hour. I know they're crazy back there, but they're a lot of fun and they have snacks. So, lots of fun. Help out with an event. Get involved in these kids' lives. Get to know them. Learn their names. Hear their stories. Show them that you care. Show them what it looks like to live for God and to be a Christian man and woman. Show them their love. Not every child was able to be born into the same household as I was, and these kids need our love. These kids need our godly example. My prayer and my challenge for our church is that we step up and we take on this responsibility and we invest in our children because they're the future of our church. We've got to. I appreciate you guys listening to me this morning. I just want to let you know if you have any needs and you have anything that we can pray for, you can come forward as we stand and sing. Thank you.